Good morning and welcome. I'm Alex Vatanka, the director of the Iran program here at the Middle East Institute, and I'm pleased to welcome you all to today's panel discussion on the Iranian public's attitudes toward the country's foreign policy agenda. Given tensions in the Middle East and the possibility of a conflict between Iran and Israel, and perhaps the United States, the panel could not have been timed any better. Today's panel is centered around a brand new poll that was conducted inside of Iran in late September and early October 2024, just literally a few weeks ago. The findings of the poll tell us where the Iranian people stand on issues such as the future of relations with the United States, whether Iran and Israel should normalize ties, or whether Iran's regional agenda and the use of proxy militant groups is in the interest of the Iranian national interest. The poll also has important messages in terms of widespread sense of disillusionment inside of Iran, particularly among the youth. I invite you all to see the full report, which you can find on MEI's website, and I think you will find it interesting. MEI is delighted to welcome our four experts for this conversation around these issues today. In the interest of time, I will introduce them by name and affiliation only, and in order they will speak today, but you can see their full bios on the pages for this event on MEI's website. First, we have Arash Ghafouri. He's the CEO of Stasis Consulting, the organization that has carried out the poll that we'll be discussing today. Next, we have Marjan Keypour, who is a non-resident scholar at MEI's Iran program and someone very much involved in human rights work. Then we have Yousof Azizi, who is a PhD candidate in public administration and public affairs at Virginia Tech School of Public and International Affairs. Last but not least, we have Saeed Golkar, who is an associate professor at Department of Political Science at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. I encourage those of you who are watching us to submit your questions. Please use Zoom's Q&A feature. I'll be looking for all those questions that I can factor in. And with that, let us start. We will give the floor to Arash in a minute. We're still waiting for Saeed. I hope he's well. I hope he will join us. But in the meantime, Arash, I know you have some slides you wanted to share. So why don't you take over control, share your slides with us, and give us your takeaways in terms of this last or latest poll that you have conducted in Iran, asking ordinary Iranians how to feel about the various issues on foreign policy. So over to you, Arash.
Okay, I just want to thank MEI for hosting this event and want to go dig into the results of this survey. This is a survey but before that, I just want to note that I'm just a number guy here. This is a very controversial issue. And of course, I have my opinion regarding the topic, but I don't want to dig into the why people responded to such some question in different ways. So we have, our experts from both sides of the aisle, and if there's anything in between, so I know that Alex is an expert on that and he can fill the gap. In case you have a question about the survey, I would be happy to respond, but I'm not gonna go to why people respond such way or why they think this way or the other way. So this is a poll that we conducted between September 21st to October 3rd of this year. It's almost 2 weeks ago we finished the survey, filled the survey. And if I want to go to the one main point of this survey, one main takeaway of the survey, it says that our poll suggests Iranians overwhelmingly blame the country's economic problem on state foreign policy, but Iranians are invested in the idea of military presence in the Middle East. They might be contradictory to each other. I know the panel is going to talk about it, but this is how people think. Iranians are in favor of normalizing a diplomatic relationship with the United States and support the nuclear deal. Many of the population, believe that Iran's foreign policy is contributing to the tension in the Middle East. This Respondents believe Iran's military presence in the Middle East makes them safer at home. Most of the population in this survey also say that after this recent conflict between Iran and Israel, Iran is now a stronger position in the region. And although Masoud Pezeshkian was granted the office, he took the office of the president just 1 month before the conducting of the survey. Only 39% of respondents approve of his job as president and 35% disapprove. So now if I want to go to the slides, I'm going to start with the foreign policy and the economic problems that people can kind of relate to each other. And as you see here in the slide, 78% of Iranians say Iran foreign policy is very much, or to an extent, a cause of the economic and social problem facing the country. Here we have the exact question: to what extent is Iran's foreign policy a cause of Iran's economic problem? And as you see here, 78% say that. We ask another question: how much do you think Iran's foreign policy today advances the well-being of you as a ordinary citizen? And as you see here, just a quarter of the population believe this statement. They think that is very much, or to an extent, Iran's foreign policy advances the well-being of ordinary citizens, and 63% have the opposite view. Iranians also believe that Iran foreign policy has a big role on kind of tension in the Middle East. As a plurality of the Iranian, 43% believe this statement, and 18%, as you see here, are disagree with this statement. Regarding the nuclear activities and the negotiation with the West, making agreements, we had a question asking people: do you want Iranian to make Iran make an agreement, or you don't want it? And as you see here, 60% of the Iranians believe that Iran should make an agreement with West regarding its nuclear activities. And this is a interesting question, because we had the exact same question 11 years ago after President Rouhani took the office of the president. We conducted a survey, I believe it was a week before we made an agreement. Iran made an agreement with the West. It was an interim agreement. It was on November 2013. And at the time, the numbers are pretty much similar. As you see here in the green bar, now it's 61%. At the time, 11 years ago, it was 65%. And those who do not agree, now is 20%. At that time, 11 years ago, was 11%. Here you see that those who prefer to do not make an agreement is more than before. But I would say that the way that Iranians want to this deal is pretty much similar to each other now, if you want to compare the result to 11 years ago. Iranians also want to have a good relationship normalizing the relationship with the United States. As you see here, 55% agree with this statement. To what extent do you agree or disagree with this statement? Here is a question. And the exact question is: Iran should normalize its relationship with USA. 55% say completely agree, and 12% say they are somewhat agree. So totally 67%. However, just 25% of the population are in favor of such a relationship with Israel. I would say this is completely different than the United States. Just 25% and 64% are completely disagree. 3% somewhat disagrees. Total is going to be 67% disagree with normalizing the Iran's relationship with Israel. Iranians also are, I would say, split on their preference for relation with China and Russia, or versus, USA and UK. We had a question: do you want to have a good relationship with these two countries? Countries like China and Russia, or countries like USA and UK. And as you see here, China and Russia, USA and UK, each of them, they have 34%. So the population here is split on the their preferences to have going to the west or east. But besides the others, the normalizing the relationship with the U.S. economy has a problem. I mean, foreign policy has a problem and has a kind of relation with the economy that we have right now. But Iranian, I mean, the majority of Iranian are invested in the idea of providing military support to Iran's proxy group and believe Iran should have a military presence in Syria. As you see here in the first bar chart, 60% of Iranian support or completely or somewhat agree with the statement that it says Iran should provide military support to its proxy group, which is called Axis of Resistance. Before we call it Jabhat Muqawamat in the Middle East. Financially, it's not as much. As you see here, 49% agree, 45% disagree. The population split on this one. And regarding the non-military forces in presence in Syria, as you see here, half a country, 50% believe that Iran's military should be present in Syria, and 41% they don't believe this. The other question that we had, it was the two questions. Does Iran's military presence in the Middle East make you feel safer at home or not? As you see here, 69% say yes. It makes us safer at home. Even for the Iran's support for its proxy group, which is called, Jabhat Muqawamat or Axis of Resistance, again, 66% say yes, it makes us safer at home, as opposed to 25%, 28% corresponding for these two questions. And we had a conflict with Israel. During the conducting this survey, the tension, skyrocketed. So Nasrallah killed by Israel's U.S. force, Israel's Air Force. And during, I believe, the last days of the survey, Iran launched the missile attacks against Israel. We asked the respondents after recent conflict between Iran and Israel, do you think that Iran is now stronger in the Middle East or weaker? And as you see here, 59% believe that Iran is stronger, as opposed to 26% that they have the opposite view regarding this. We asked about President Pezeshkian approval. I know that he took the office just 2 months. It was on May or June of this year. And as you see here, 39% approved, 35% disapprove. But the thing is here is very important for us as someone who want to dig into why people responded to his presidency is 26% saying that they have no idea or refuse to respond. And it's a large number. Over the last 3 surveys that we had done exact same question for President Raisi, the non-responses, at the time wasn't more than 10%. I believe it was 7, 8, 9% maximum. And it says something to us if we want to go to the president approval, why people have no idea about him. Maybe they don't trust him. At least for now, they might need something from him to respond either way, to approve or disapprove. They are thinking about him. And the election is, I think, it's pretty much reason for that. So this is a interesting. The 39%, 35% is not interesting for me. The number of people who refuse to respond is very interesting for me. And I think anyone who wants to go to President Pezeshkian's performance, they have to dig into who are these people. We had a question about use-related statements. So there's 6 questions on a 4 scale spectrum from completely agree to completely disagree. And as a whole, I can say that Iranians have serious concern about use issues. And as you see here, we asked respondents, to what extent do you agree or disagree with this statement, such as Iranian youth do not see prosperity for the future in Iran. 77% they believe that Iranian youth do not see prosperity. It has a positive view on this question. The official restricted liberty of Iranian youth by interfering in their lifestyle. Same. Not that much, but still high. Or the other question, the second to the last question, Iranian youth prefer to immigrate to other countries instead of living in Iran. 73% say yes, yeah, Iranian completely agree with this system. It's not good for the country that, at least I would say in the past, invested a lot on youth concern and youth issues, but people right now they cannot see any future for themselves inside the country. So here is our dashboard. If you want to go to the all the questions, the exact wording of the questionnaire, the questions in the questionnaire, and see the result, how would be different based on demographic variables such as gender, age, location, or education. You can go to this website. This is the interactive website. There is a bubble chart. It's a combination of a bar chart and bubble chart. The bubble chart, every single of these bubbles represent one person. If you click on that person or that bubble, it shows you all the responses of that that person to the other. I mean, the other to the other questions, and interactively change. You can go through it. So this is you can download the questionnaire and download the report from this website, and in 6 months we're gonna upload the raw data on the website. Anyone can go to the raw data and then download it and make their own analysis. So this is it. So thank you, and I would be happy if you have any question. Just as said before, if you have any question about the survey and methodology, that kind of things, not the judgment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Arash. That was very good. Look, I think I will come back to you in the next round with data questions for you, as you said. But it would be really good if you could tell us a bit more about how this survey has perhaps been different from previous surveys that have been carried out, and some of the numbers that might have surprised you. You already hinted at some of them. Particularly, I was wondering, I think I'm not mistaken when I say at some part in the report, it suggested that the results showed that men in Iran, which were a majority of people who were surveyed, tend to be more diplomatic than the female counterparts who might be interested in more of a muscular position in the region. That did strike me as really interesting. I don't know if you can comment on that, but you can do that when I come back to you, when I ask about what stood out for you, having done so many of these surveys in recent years. Let me turn to Yousof. Yousof, I'd love to hear your thoughts, your reactions to overall what you've heard so far from Arash, from Marjan. But let me tell you something that stands out for me. 78% say Iran's foreign policy is very much, or to an extent, a cause for the country's economic problems. 78%. 63% believe that Iran's foreign policy does not advance the well-being of ordinary citizens. These numbers suggest to me a major disconnect between official policy and where the Iranian public is. Would you agree with that?
Hi, hello, everyone. So thank you very much for inviting me. I read everything that you sent me about the survey and wrote some explanation of the data you just mentioned. So let me read from the first. Hello, everyone. I would like to thank the Middle East Institute, especially Alex Vatanka, for inviting me. I had the privilege of interning here back in 2015 with Alex as my supervisor, and it's great to reconnect with such an excellent organization, even though it is virtual this time. Just a quick note, everything I share today is solely my opinion and does not represent the views of my university or any other organization or government. I'm looking forward to a great discussion on the important and timely issue. I would also like to thank Arash and his team for their efforts. While I'm not surprised by the findings, the level of regional support for both financial and military initiative is noteworthy, and against what many media and analysts have said recently. There are also global trends reflected in significant US polls and survey conducted by Gallup and the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, which highlights issues such as public mistrust in government, dissatisfaction among young people regarding officials' policies, and the negative impact of foreign policy on domestic economic well-being. Some questions are too broad and need follow-up questions to understand the factors involved. For example, we could ask what a specific issue causes economic problem, which foreign policy topics concerns people the most, and what other factors are related to tensions in the Middle East. And I think one very important question left behind, how much Iranians right now do support Iran acquire nuclear deterrence. One note on, let me put, I have two notes on Marjan's comment, but I leave it at the end. So the question to what extent is Iran foreign policy a cause of Iran's economic problems centers solely on foreign policy as a potential factor. However, it would be more insightful to provide respondents with a broader range of options for identifying the root causes of economic challenges. Asking respondents to rank multiple factors such as domestic mismanagement, corruption, financial system issues, neoliberal economic policies, and foreign policy would yield a more nuanced understanding of public opinion. For instance, if the question were to what extent is corruption a cause of Iran's economic problems, I would expect an overwhelming majority of Iranians, perhaps over 85%, to answer very much or to an extent. Furthermore, an open-ended option allowing respondents to add reasons not listed could capture unforeseen causes of economic hardship. This would offer a more comprehensive assessment of public perception and highlights the multifaceted nature of Iran's economic issues. If Arash and his team have already asked such questions, it would be beneficial to share those findings with us. Additionally, it is noteworthy that the question to what extent is Iran foreign policy a cause of Iran's economic problem reveals a general similarity to sometimes in the United States, where many believe that foreign policies such as trade deals and military spending contributes to economic challenges, particularly for the middle and working class. This reflects a broader skepticism about the benefits of international engagement. So I have some other notes here, but let me just brief here. When we see the majority of Iranian, or at least about 60% on the financial issues, about 50-50, support militarily or financially the resisting groups. And on the other hand, we saw that many Iranians, 78%, said that the economic problem one of the causes of economic problems coming from the foreign policy. There is a contradictory here, okay? And we have to discuss more about the extent of that. If the following question, we have those following questions, we can talk about this. Is it about the regional issues, or probably the people talking about the nuclear agreement, talking about how the negotiation with China and Russia didn't yield any economic benefits for the country, or other issues, okay? So I think we need more information to exactly say what this foreign policy means. Is it regional policy? Is it about the supporting the resistant group, or some other topics?
Thank you, Yousof. I'll come back to you. You raised a lot of questions. I'm sure Arash and Marjan for sure will have some counter for you. But listen, without getting into the whole who's responsible on corruption, I mean, one can point to the one power that has been since 1989 is ultimately responsible. And you can talk about, the new liberal order, who's to be blamed for that sort of thing. But end of the day, when I want to come back to you, Yousof, in the next round is, what's going on with the immigration rates? Everybody who can leave Iran wants to leave Iran. Doesn't matter how we got here, but that's a real problem. I want to ask you specifically on that. And Yousof, you remember from our conversation where you were with us at MEI that you and I are not going to agree on this point. I'm pretty sure we'll have our cordial disagreements. But you mentioned in your remarks at the outset that you're surprised by the support in Iranian society for what Iran is doing in the region. I assume that's a reflection of what's going on right now, where you might have a crude sense of nationalism, if you will, that, you're rooting for your team, essentially. But that doesn't take away from the simple fact that, and that's the number I wanted to give to you, and I promised I wanted to turn to the issue of immigration. 77% of Iranians are pessimistic about the future, and 72% prefer to emigrate. To me, that's a national security crisis. And never mind whether you can export the axis of resistance to the region when Iranians don't want to buy into your message and are leaving. What happens? You're hollowing out the nation. You're literally hollowing out the country of Iran. Or the professionals are leaving. They're going to neighboring states, Turkey, UAE. Everybody's picking up Iranian talent. And So I wanted to ask you, how do you, the immigration issue is the elephant in the room, because that tells you people are leaving for real reasons. So anyway, before I ran on here, take a few moments and set me straight.
That's a great question. And just one note on your previous statement. For sure, the Iranian government, the Islamic Republic of Iran, is responsible for all of this, okay, for the well-being of the population. My previous point is not about the putting responsible on other things. No. Every government is responsible for what's happening inside the government, inside the state. So, but the problem I have with your whole phrase is how you put this immigration crisis. I agree with that. Link this to the foreign policy and here for the regional policy. Okay, this linkage needs some more question, more answer, more data. We cannot easily, and you can see in the data when I said I'm not surprised, but it is noteworthy. It is interesting how much Iranian support. It's probably different from the last years, because of the new situation and what's happening since last October, 7th October in the Middle East. So the Iranian now and many elites in the government, in the whole regime, see some threats and see some threats about the sovereignty and integrity of the Iran. So, but let me talk a little bit about immigration. So, what I wanted to say is that when you look at the sole survey of a country, you may find some interesting, data there, but you have to compare it with other countries. And sometimes you find this as a global trend. It's not Iran as an exception, okay? It is bad. Nobody want to justify that, okay? But we have to understand the global trend that in recent years, there are many speculation about the coming out of the countries, the nurses and medical doctors, and that's the true issues. But when I look at the data around the world from the international institution, I found that Iran is not yet among the first 20 countries that per population and per medical doctors and nurses in that countries, they are, like a brain drain, they are getting out of the country for better life. And you have to understand that this country, Iran, is about 15 years under huge sanction. Okay, we have to put all of this together. Let me talk a little bit about the immigration. And we know that income and wealth inequality is one of the major forces for the young and for the classes who are, getting the most problem from the sanction that wanna go out. Okay, the upper classes, the elites, there's no change on their life under the sanction. But many classes, middle classes and down the middle classes, they are offended by this sanction. Okay. One other thing is that the HDI of Iran, Human Development Index by the United Nations, if you go to the website and see the trends since the revolution, there are 3 countries that have the most speed, the trend, okay, just the trend: Iran, South Korea, Republic of Korea, and Turkey. And these are going fast forward like each other. Yes, maybe somebody says why the Iranian well-being is not like Korea, like not Turkey. Also Turkey, we have to discuss more on that. Because since 1979, 1978, they are in the upper category on that time in the United Nations Human Development Index, okay? It doesn't mean that before the revolution, Iran is the well-being of the Iranian people is like the South Korean people. No, they are different, and the gap is still there. The gap is still there. But let me tell you 2 things. The Human Development Index has 3 factors: 1 health condition, 1 education, and 1 income. Health and education go so fast, and income in the past 10 years go down or steady. So when health condition and education go fast, the population grows with higher education, the degree from university, and they didn't find job, the expected job they wanted because the economy is not growing fast. So what happened? They wanted to immigrate, and this is very simple issue. This happened in India. This happened in Israel. You just wanted to search the Israel brain drain, and you find out lots of data, what happened in the last 10 years, not just since October 2023. So I wanted to say that many other countries who are not under sanction, who doesn't have the security dilemma in the region, they have more than Iran, the immigration, the people coming out of the country more than Iran. So one other thing, the income inequality, the income problem of Iran in the past 10 years, coming from sanction, and second one, the neoliberal economic policies that Iran put in hand. So again, yes, one major factor responsible is Iranian government, because they didn't know how to make a policy that all of the countries, especially the poor people, the needy people, they could have the income enough that the gap is closed. So there are some other issues that next time I can touch.
Thank you. No, that's wonderful. Thank you, Yousof. But Arash, let's turn to you. You got a number of questions. Marjan has some issues or questions for you in terms of how the survey came about. I have some questions coming in terms of, for example, how free are the Iranians to ask or answer your questions when they get a phone call from you? So tell us a little bit more about the methodology used for this survey. I mean, I know it's all online, but if you could just tell people who are listening right now very quickly how this was done, and then respond to some of the things you heard Marjan and Yousof talk about. Floor is yours.
Okay, the thing is, I mean, 1,200 responses for the survey is enough. So you don't need 10,000 responses. You don't need 10,000 samples. And the organization that Marjan John referred to, it was an online survey. It's not scientific. So you know that, for example, the United States, more than 200 million people can vote in the election in 3 weeks. Just check out the surveys samples. It's not more than 1,000, 1,200, sometimes 800. And if you can find a good sample who could be representative for the whole population, 1,200 would be more than enough with 3% margin of error. So we don't need more. This is the first thing. The other thing is about the trending of the attitudes toward Israel. I would say, yeah, that's a very good point Marjan mentioned there. So I don't have any data from the past. This is my first time that I question this exact same question that and get the exact same question of Iran and Israel relationship. But I'm telling you, 25% is not that. I mean, if you want that, I believe Iranian have a good relationship with Israel, 25% is going to be 10 million people. You can see this way as well. It's not that bad. Is it majority? No, of course not, because 60% has a different view. But 25% is not that bad as this level. The other thing is, Marjan talked about, because of all the propaganda of the Islamic Republic over the last 40 years, people might respond this way, they might afraid or that kind of things. I would say we had the exact same propaganda against USA. USA is bigger than Israel. Iranian right now, at least the government, blaming the United States for what's happening in Gaza. They're blaming United States for supporting Israel. They claim that if United States doesn't support Israel is going to be wiped out. This is the government, the Iranian government propaganda. But you see that Iranian believe that we have to have a good relation. I mean, normalizing the relationship with Israel, with the United States. Why asking people about the United States? They don't afraid, but asking about Israel, they're afraid of that question. It's not the case. People, because of any reason, if sometimes we have something in our mind, we see something in social media, we see something from our friends and family, but we cannot generalize that kind of perception, that kind of idea or beliefs that's true. This is the kind of thing that I got it, and based on the responses, based on the scientific survey, and I can rely on that. Of course, any kind of survey, there are some factors involved. It could be biased by questionnaire, the whole questionnaire, some question. Survey could be screening some part of the population. But you, Alex, know that we, in this survey, you know that at the back end, there are at least 4 or 5 people who is digging into every single question I mean, to be the contents to be fair and the result to be scientifically approvable. So, I mean, meticulously for every single, responses, they have the idea, they might some comments, and we have to respond to make sure that whatever we are presenting here is a kind of thing that we can rely on. I wouldn't say that this is there couldn't be any mistake. There could be. I wouldn't say that people might not be afraid of responding to certain questions. They might be, but we do whatever we could to reduce that, to decrease that factor. And the last thing that I want to talk about Youssef's questions. Yeah, he mentioned something. Youssef John, you mentioned something about the other question that we could ask. That's true. But surveys, the question is limited. We have limited time, limited number of questions we can ask, and we prioritize whatever we could. So you're right. In the future, we might ask some more questions about the foreign policy and how people they dig into more about that. But this is the thing that we have right now.
Thank you. Arash, one question we have here, and I do feel sorry for the Iranian president, Masoud Pezeshkian, because if you don't know the Iranian system well, you might assume he's the president, he's the boss, he calls the shots. But the fact is, on some of the key issues in this survey, Iran's relations with the United States, the question of Israel, regional agenda, none of those things are essentially within his purview. I mean, he might have a voice, but I doubt very much he will have the decisive voice. It's with the supreme leader, it's with the Revolutionary Guards and others essentially, but not the president. But yet, here we have a question. Was there any, Arash, this is to you, was there any correlation between approval of Pezeshkian, and you reminded us that was very low, and his stance or the stance of Iran on foreign policy? So that's a question. And I wanted to ask you another question as we wrap up. I was taken back by only 20% of Iranians say, 19% of Iranians don't have a strong view on the issue of Iran's nuclear program. You really must have been living under a rock with the last 15 or so years of sanctions, pretty much all of it, but not a lot of it related to the nuclear program. How do you explain that? Is that because they just don't want to tell you what they feel out of fear? I mean, how should we take that? So those two questions for you, Arash, and anything else you want to give us before we go to the last two speakers?
Okay, let's go for the Mr. Pezeshkian. The good thing about polls is that if you have the raw data that we are gonna upload on the website and anyone can download it, have their own analysis, you can cross-tab all the questions together, right? So, and find a way that how the question responded to each other based on some other criteria than demographic variables. And here for the President Pezeshkian, there's a very interesting thing for me that I've done that, and I published it in the Farsi version of our website. Those who are in favor of Mr. Pezeshkian are in line with the regimes, the Islamic Republic, I would say, policies or propaganda or whatever you can call it. For example, those who believe that Iran should have a good relationship have a normalized relationship with Israel. Okay, we know that's 25%. Those who are in favor of Mr. Pezeshkian are against the idea, but those who are against Mr. Pezeshkian, who are not in favor of, who says that they are dissatisfied with the way that he's handling his job as president, among them, this number is 33-4%. On some other things, for example, on providing military financial support to proxy groups in Iran, in the region. Those who are in favor of Mr. Pezeshkian, who say that they are satisfied with the way that he's handling his job, is more likely to say that Iran should provide military or financial support. However, those who are against Mr. Pezeshkian, those who are saying that they are dissatisfied with the way that he's doing his job, they are against the idea of providing financial assistance to the Iran's proxy groups in the region. And we find this kind of result for almost all of the question related to the Iran's foreign policy. That's why I would say that there are some parts of the, I mean, in the past, for example, we knew that if you are a reformist president, such as President Rouhani or moderate, those who are against him was among the principalists in Iran. But right now, I believe that some part of, I mean, the principalists and reformists, and some small part of or slim part of the population that still believe that change is possible, they are supporting President Pezeshkian, and who do not see that kind of things, they are anti-regime or they are against the Islamic Republic. They don't believe Mr. Pezeshkian and against him. It's a very interesting topic. I think that it should be, we have to dig on this more, ask more questions in our next surveys. But it's a hypothesis at the end. We have to test.
Sure.
What was your other question? If I have time, if I don't, that's
well, we're kind of out of time, but let me ask, well, let me say one thing and then ask you this question, if you could answer it very quickly. There's a question in terms of the report itself. Please pick it up on the website of Middle East Institute, mei.edu. You'll see the survey there. It's wonderful. It's in color. You will enjoy the results the way they've been presented, thanks to Arash and his team. But Arash, there's one final question for you. If you could just give us a few words on this. How many Iranians are basically afraid to take part in a survey like this when they get a call from you?
There are some issues here. I mean, it's not something just for us. It's not unique for us. Everywhere in the world, the response rate in the United States, in the surveys in the United States, is less than 10%. I would say there would be the afraid issue here. I mean, some people are afraid to respond, but it's not as much as someone believe that, for example, people don't respond. I'm telling you, Alex, next time we can just find the number, call them, and talk about lots of things other than Supreme Leader in Iran. But he's different. About the president, about anyone. People 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 10 would say such a thing that you cannot believe.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You have a question about Qal'e-No'i, the Team Melli head coach.
It was an opening question. So I don't know. I just want to know that if the people are satisfied or dissatisfied with him. But as you see here, lots of people have no idea, more than 60%.
Great. I think we could have had this conversation lasting much longer, but Alice, we're out of time. I want to thank you all for joining us today. Congratulations to Arash and his team for this wonderful survey report, which, by the way, just to repeat, you can find the full report at the website of Middle East Institute, mei.edu. You can see the results for yourself. You can see the previous results. We have had an ongoing cooperation with Stasis Consulting and Arash and his team. We'll look forward to continuing that. Marjan, Yousof, thank you so much for your time and your expertise, and everybody who joined us today. Again, I'm sure we'll come back to this issue again, but so important to make sure we hear, to the extent possible, the views of people living in Iran, as we trying to make sure that U.S. policy options on Iran going forward takes that into account. So again, with that, have a great day, and thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.